Hello, it's Judy and welcome back to my channel. I thought it was about time that I did an update on my channel, and for those of you who've recently subscribed to me, you may have gone back to look at some of my old videos and possibly be a little bit confused as to how come there are some vastly different videos there from the sort of content that I'm creating now. And I thought this might go as some way of an explanation to help you with that. When I started this channel, the idea was that I just wanted a space somewhere out on the internet where I could put up videos, mostly of my little girl, for family and friends to be able to see and to keep in touch with the world. And at the time, I didn't really think that I would ever get to a point where I'd be sitting in front of my phone, which is what I record everything on, and talking to you as though you were sitting in my living room. And that's where we are today. The channel started out as an opportunity for me to just post public videos for family and friends. That was literally all it was for. And then I got sick, but I didn't know I was sick. And I'll come on to that in a little bit later. So I didn't have a huge amount of money, and I had a daughter who was needing attention from time to time, but she would go off and nap for a bit and I'd have to be quiet so that I didn't keep her awake. So I just started recording videos of me playing with makeup, and I would buy a few bits and pieces and mostly the inexpensive dupes of the stuff that I was really wanting to buy, and I would create makeup looks that suited my face. And I thought there must be people out there who had faces like mine and that they might want to see some of the things that I was doing with makeup, and they got a little bit of support and a little bit of help. But part of the playing with the makeup was actually to make me feel better about myself. See, I didn't know I was sick, and I have to rewind a little bit back from that. As a child, I wasn't an overweight child, and I wasn't a skinny child. I was your average build, but I started studying ballet at about age 8, and which was a little bit late, but that gave me a very skewed view of what an ideal body looked like. And I can tell you now, I do not have the ideal ballet body, never did. But I was so in love with ballet and so in love with dance, and I just wanted to be there and doing movement and expressing myself in dance. I danced everywhere. We would go down the street as a family and I would be ahead of everybody else dancing, and that was just me, never sitting still. So at about the age of 11, I went on my first diet. And I think that probably developed into a constant battle with my weight then, from then on. I think it potentially screwed up my system. And that then resulted in me constantly battling with my weight all the way through my teens and into my 20s. And, you know, I studied ballet at a tertiary level, and I was dancing for 6 or 7 hours a day, and I was still struggling with my weight. So I met my husband when I was 17, and we got married just before my 19th birthday. And we then moved to England, and we decided through our 20s that we didn't want to have children. So we held off, and then in our 30s we decided that we did want to have children, and we started to try for children, and nothing was working. And every time I met a health professional, their reaction was, lose weight and you'll get pregnant. And no one bothered to look to see if there was anything else going on, if there was anything wrong with my system. It was simply, if I lost enough weight, I would fall pregnant. Simple equation. Well, it didn't work because I couldn't lose enough weight in their mind. You know, I kept saying to them, but it's taken me 15 years, 20 years to put on this weight. What makes you think that I can lose it rapidly? I even had one consultant who suggested to me that I try anorexia. What was going under the surface and no one bothered to check was that I actually had polycystic ovaries. And yes, weight loss helps with polycystic ovaries, but there are also other things that can be done to help women who have polycystic ovaries fall pregnant. Finally, I fell pregnant naturally, aged 41. In the process of that, I developed gestational diabetes. And that was fine throughout the pregnancy. It was all monitored and everything was fine. And after the birth, my blood sugars levels all returned to normal, and no one then checked up on me for another 2 years. And finally, they did a blood test. Someone said, oh, maybe we should do an HbA1c test on you. And they called me back into the GP surgery the following day, quite concerned because my blood sugar levels were quite high. So they started me on a program of treatment and we got the diabetes under control. And again, they kept saying, lose weight and your diabetes will go away. And there was no assistance provided to help me lose weight. It was all the, try Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig or, exercise more, or, and no one was giving me any psychological help, mental help with dieting. So about 2015, I went to visit my GP and told him that I was struggling with the world. I was struggling to keep on top of things. I was tired all the time. I was having a hard time keeping on top of the housework. And he diagnosed me with depression and gave me some pills and sent me away without doing any blood tests. 6 months later, I went back to him and told him that it didn't seem to me that the antidepressants were making any difference. I was still feeling run down and unmotivated. So he increased the dose. Again, no more blood tests, and I was just sent away. And again, lose weight. In 2017, I did some research and found a thing called the Newcastle diet and approached my GP nurse and said to her, if you help me, could I go on this diet? And she said, oh, actually, there's a program running in Reading that we can get you on. And they got me onto the diet with 2 days' notice. And it was called a very low calorie diet. And it was one of these supplemental diets, but it was done with the assistance of dietitians and nutritionists. And we were having constant blood tests done to make sure that everything was safe. So I was happy to do that. And I lost this 15 kilos that was required for the program. And overall, over the course, the program was 12 weeks. So I lost 15 kilos in 12 weeks. I reversed my type 2 diabetes. And over the course of the following 12 months, I lost 36 kilos in total. Well done. I kept saying to people, you've told me that I needed to lose weight in order to feel better. So how much weight do I need to lose in order to start to feel better? And they all kept going, oh, well, you must be feeling better now. If you're not feeling better now, if you're not feeling more energized, then maybe you need to do more exercise to increase your stamina. Again, no one offered any blood tests. So I came home to Australia in 2018 and was feeling particularly run down and realised that after 3 weeks, there's no reason why I should still be suffering from jet lag. So I went to see a chiropractor with a view that he might be able to help me with my sleeping and my drowsiness. After all, GPs had all failed me, so maybe a chiropractor can help me. And the first thing he did was do a full body x-ray and call me back in the following day, very concerned about the state of my skeleton. It looked very mottled and grey to him, not the creamy white that he would expect from a healthy skeleton. So he sent me to an Australian GP who the first thing she did was say, okay, you're a woman over 40 presenting with feeling down and unmotivated. We're going to do a blood test and check. And sure enough, that afternoon, she came back to me and she said, yes, you've got cancer. And she said, I don't know what kind of cancer, but we'll get you healthy enough so that you can go back to the UK. So I went back to the UK, discovered that my UK GP had retired, and his replacement was incredibly shocked at my story. But he got me into the system as the way the UK does, and I then went ahead and got some of the best help that I've ever seen. No questions asked. It was all there. It was all free. It was all just whatever drugs you need, whatever treatments you need, we'll get them done. We'll get all the tests done to make sure. And they went hunting and eventually determined that I have metastatic breast cancer, which is sometimes referred to as stage 4 breast cancer. And it's basically where the breast cancer has moved into other parts of the body. So it appears as though what had happened in my case was that I may have had a tumor at some point, and my body did the immune response that it's supposed to do and killed off that tumor. So by the time that I was starting to feel symptoms, there was no tumor to feel. I can tell you now, I did regular checks and I never felt a single thing. It moved into the rest of my system, and I've been very fortunate because although it has moved through my lymph nodes, it's remained relatively clear of my other organs. So I have in my spine, pelvis, rib cage and sternum and left scapula are the parts of my bones that have been attacked by the cancer. There is a little bit in my bladder that they keep a look on, and a little bit in one of my lungs that they keep a look on, but there's no actual signs of cancer there. So I started blogging about my illness on Facebook, and it was initially a private group that only my friends and family could see, but I decided to keep my main Facebook feed free of all of my conversations about my illness, so that if people didn't want to be confronted with my cancer, they didn't have to be. They could choose to go and have a look at my group and get updates on what was happening with my health there, and they would get notifications. But if they didn't want to, if it was too iffy for them, or they were having a bit of a hard time themselves and didn't want to hear about what was going on in my life, they could opt in and opt out. That group has now gone public, and while the majority of the people who are on that group are my friends and family, there are a few extra people who have joined. And if you would like to see that blog and see, it's basically talking about what treatments I'm having, what it feels like to be the person that goes monthly, or at the moment it's about every 6 months, to have a CT scan done. And the kind of the nuts and bolts of what someone with metastatic breast cancer has to go through on a daily basis. It's also occasionally there's a rant about the problem is that I don't look like a cancer sufferer. I haven't lost my hair. I don't look haggard and thin and as though I'm on death's door, because the treatment that I'm receiving is keeping me healthy. So I'm not an obvious cancer sufferer. So I will arrive places and I will be absolutely shattered. Let's say, for example, I'm going shopping and I know that I've got a certain window of time in my day where I'm going to have enough energy to do the shopping without getting crabby. And sometimes I misjudge it. And you kind of have to, at that point, soldier through the moment in order to be able to live your life and get going. So there's occasionally a rant on there where I complain about the way someone has treated me, because they've treated me as though they expect me to be 100% healthy, and they're completely oblivious that I'm not. So anyway. So in 2019, November, we relocated from the UK back to Australia, and I came home to my family. And that was really nice to have the support of my sisters and my mother nearby, and a brother in Tasmania and a sister in Canberra, who were all reaching out and helping me and supporting me as much as they could. And then COVID hit. And as we know, the whole world changed. And then my world changed even more because my mother passed away at the height of that first initial wave, where we were still, the whole world was still getting to grips with what this pandemic looked like. But eventually we moved into our own home after Mum passed. We stayed living with her for a while. We living in her house for a while. And then we bought our own house and we moved into it. And I threw myself into building a home that my family and I could live in. And then once I got the house to a point where I felt it was, there's loads more still to do. But we have spent a lot of time turning the house into our home. We've added things to the house that have made living in it much easier for us. So we have solar panels, and the house had air conditioning, it had a pool. There are some things we're going to add heating to the pool so that we can use the pool for more of the year. And then one of the reasons why we bought this house was because it had this room that I'm sitting in that was set up as a granny flat. And it was a blank canvas, and so I spent the time starting to set things up, and I started to document what I was doing to set it up. And I thought, I've still got my YouTube channel, I could pop things out. So you'll see some of the furniture construction that I've done, and I've done a couple of tours of the room, and it's not complete yet. There's still some things to do on it, but we're getting there. And that's where we are now. So I'm now living my daily life with cancer. And some days it hurts, and those are usually the days where I forget to take my medication. The medication that I take itself is relatively straightforward and relatively side effect free, but it does create other problems, or it exacerbates other problems. So that requires me to take other drugs to counteract some of the effects of the cancer drugs. So what I'm going to outline here now is where I'm going forward with this channel. Everyone says that you should have a theme for your YouTube channel. So, okay, my theme is cancer and living with it. But I'm probably not going to talk much about the cancer itself here. I kind of saved that for Judi's Journey on Facebook, so I'll put a link down in the description box, and if you want to hear about that and be part of that conversation, that's where that will happen. What I'm hoping is that here it will be showing the world that someone who has metastatic breast cancer can live a perfectly normal, well, inverted commas, normal life. I'm creating things, I'm doing things. I don't work because I had a conversation with my husband fairly shortly after I was diagnosed, and we agreed that I would give up trying to work. I was self-employed, and that was a hell of a lot of work. But the fact that I can choose what I do on a daily basis is, it's a privilege. Not gonna lie, I recognize that it's a privilege, but it also means that I don't have that as my stress. So it's then a case of, what does someone who didn't expect to be retiring? I come from a long line of people who don't know how to retire. I think my grandfather did it 4 times. Dad did it twice. Mum didn't really retire until her health got to the point where she really couldn't do it. I think my grandmother may have retired 3 or 4 times. And so it's this moment where I go, what does a life without a job look like? How is our life wrapped up? How is our self-worth wrapped up in the working for someone paying us money? Is that because I'm not being paid to do what I'm doing? Does that make me a less worthy person in the world? Those sorts of questions. So I'm hoping that I can show you guys a little bit of what I fill my day with. And so you've seen me build some furniture. Next week, you'll see there's a lovely video coming out of some time that I spent with my aunt working on a scrapbooking album for her. And there are other things that I've been doing. So like my sister started up her studio where she teaches classes and creates her own artwork, and she's actually a really good artist. She needed some branding and some marketing materials done, so she created a logo, and I reproduced that in vinyl, and that's on her wall, on her doors, and I've created some t-shirts and some mugs for her so she can do that. But other little things like there's a little cafe around the corner that when they moved in, some local kids vandalized their sign a few days after they'd had it made, and they couldn't afford to get it fixed. So I offered to fix it for them. And it's now back to 100% and absolutely fine. The lovely people who do my nails suggested that they would like to have a sign for their back door. So I did that for them. And a friend of mine who is one of Perth's very few piano restorers, rebuilders, tuners, anything piano, Rebecca's your girl. She wanted some signs for her car. So she's got some magnets that go onto the side of her car, and then the wheel cover on the back of her car has her logo on it as well. So it's those sorts of things that I'm filling my day with, and I hope that you coming along on the journey might be of interest, and you can kind of see some of the things that I do. At the moment, none of this makes me any money. So if you would like to buy me a coffee, I've just signed up with a site that will allow you to do that, and I will put the link in the description box below, and it will help me out a little. But it's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing this because I feel as though I'm paying back. A lot of years of me taking from the world, and this is my opportunity with the support of my friends and family, in particular my husband. I have the freedom to be able to do these sorts of things. I sing in a choir, and so I get involved in the running of that choir. And I do things like I create things for them as well. And it's all just, that's what my life is. It's little bits and pieces. And I won't show you the dull bits because, you really don't want to know what it's like to clean my living room. But I'll try and show you some of the highlights in my life, and maybe that's of interest. And if you'd like to come along with that journey, then please stay subscribed to my channel, because it's been so much fun to get to this point, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds. So it sounds very corny, and it always feels so, I hate this section of a video. Please like and subscribe the video. The subscription helps a huge amount because it means that I know that there are some, at the moment, about 230 regular people seeing my videos, or choosing not to, if that's what you want. There's nothing forcing you to watch my video. But actually the likes help out a huge amount, because every time someone likes a video of mine, the YouTube algorithm picks up that video and then promotes it to new people, other people who are also watching content that you're watching will then also get my video promoted to them. And it's just kind of nice to see that things are growing. Every time I get a new subscriber, I get an email that tells me that such and such has subscribed to my channel, and it's a little buzz of the day. It makes my day. It's really fantastic. So help me out there, promote me to your friends. And if you've got any questions about the cancer, about what I'm creating, anything that if this video has brought up any questions for you and you would like to know the answer, please put the question down into the comments and I will either answer or probably answer directly your question, but then I'll also collate all of those questions together and I can do a Q&A video a little further down the road. I hope you're all staying well and keeping happy and keeping motivated, and I look forward to talking to you in a future video. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye.